right. That's not what I'm supposed to do?
Just saying. Happy yelling at city council day, everybody. Celebrate any way you think is right for you. No judgment here. Especially after that. Oh my gosh. So before, I'm starting a little bit early. The meeting itself, public comment starts in 7 minutes. Now more than ever, it's really important to use your voice and raise it, because city council is really tired of these live streams and of people emailing them with their opinions and asking them to do things, even though it's their job to represent us and they cannot do that without our input. So really, really need you. They're trying to change things so that public comment, they think we're using it. It's the same people over and over applying. So we need some new people to apply to say words in public comment sessions, number one. And number two, they're thinking about getting rid of it altogether, or better yet, moving it away from the city council meeting itself and putting it in the middle of the day. Their argument is that all city council business is decided in committee. So like on Wednesdays when I live stream the safety and housing committee, those matter. We have to show up. Most of us have day jobs though, and can't show up every single day to every single committee. The one time we can show up is on the Monday night meetings. So they're threatening to move public comment completely from the Monday night meeting, put it in the middle of the day on Mondays, because they're angry that we don't understand how the process works. So we also, the way I interpret it is we need to show up in committee and start raising our voices too. I'm really pissed. And the person trying to silence us all is Chris Herndon. Who's that? District 8. Yeah, I thought my district sucked the hardest, District 7, Joe and Clark, but no, the one thing this guy says is there are too many people talking, and unfortunately it has to be the black man on city council. Way to represent. Thanks, Chris Herndon. But so that's all. That's what I have to say about that. Now more than ever, you need to make your voice. They are trying to censor and silence us. And I don't know about you, but I don't like that a whole lot. But if you are participating anyway, then it's going to be real easy to silence you. Don't make it easy on them. Please, please, please don't. Yay, 2023. We got to show up. We've got to turn out. We got to turn things up. And that's one of the reasons why I started the Monday Night Mutual Aid outside of city council, because what I was trying to do with Buddhist grandma Vera, who, if you've come to any event, you've seen her. She's absolutely amazing. I met her through Wall of Moms Denver, and I said, we've got to make city council cool again. What can we do? All these people want to provide mutual aid. So this is toward the middle of October. So we just started, I was and so if we had all the mutual aid organizations showing up on Monday nights outside of city council, and we could do craftivism and make things, and then make heaters and whatnot for the tents, and then convince people to come inside to the city council meeting, that could be a really powerful thing. Because if city council was doing their job, we wouldn't have to craft things for the homeless. They would be cared for. So yeah, we need new people in 2023, but we also need solutions right now. It's supposed to snow tonight. We're supposed to get a total of 3 inches. And I realize that 3 inches is not enough to ski on, so it might not sound interesting, but it's enough to die under. And people will die in the next 24 to 48 hours due to exposure to the wind and the cold. And that really shouldn't happen in the richest country in the world, even in the middle of a pandemic, I'm not even gonna. It is disgusting. You tell Councilman Herndon that we will not be silenced. That moving public comment is unacceptable and cannot happen. And you are appalled that he failed to represent you when he made that suggestion. And you copy every member of city council on it, because if you send it to him and he doesn't read it, did it really happen? You got to send it to everybody. We got to get loud. We got to get consistent, and we've got to keep showing up. So that is what I would say to Herndon. I will come back and post a little bit later, because I can't do that while I'm streaming, but I'll come back and post a list of their email addresses, as well as how to find them on Twitter and other places on social media. I have all their handles handy and ready to go. Thank you. I love that you're already on it. That's amazing. So that was his proposal last week. Anything big that pops out in committee. It's also a good idea, by the way, to get on the email list of your city council person. Are they talking about the things that you want to talk about? Are they communicating at all? All of these are really important, because you also, in addition to your council member, there are 2 reps at large. Now, what that means is they represent the whole city. So anything that you send to your rep, you need to send to the at-large person too. Because if your rep, like Herndon, really sucks, doesn't listen, or like mine, and doesn't respond to email, then a great thing to do is to copy the president, Stacey Gilmore, and both, because she has to listen to everybody, whether she likes it or not. No, she doesn't. And both at-large members, because that is how city government works. And final note here, like you can show up in vote once every 4 years, but the stuff that impacts us on a day-to-day basis happens in committee at city council and is rubber stamped on Monday nights. So Monday nights also give you a heads up of all the things that are in the works before they become finalized and rubber stamped. So by getting on the mailing list, by showing up to this live stream, by engaging with any of us in any way who are trying desperately to get and retain your attention, we will try to keep you one step ahead of these things before they become codified and there's nothing we can do about it. But this is our best chance at defending the police and making the community safer for everyone around it. And final note on that, before I go to the Zoom, if you really give a shit about keeping the community safe, wear a fucking mask. Wear a fucking mask. And if you refuse to wear a mask, fuck you. Stay away from me. 6 feet is not enough distance. Fuck you. And for shame. The only thing weirder than that is deciding to form an LLC to provide mutual aid. Looking that up doesn't make me a stalker. It's called due diligence. I was a banker. It's what we did. We used to research people before we gave them money. Crazy. We would do a basic, we didn't have Google back then because I'm old, but we would do a Google search at the very least. And if we thought that this was going to go somewhere and we really wanted to be associated with these people, we would do a background check. Now, background checks are not something I do on the regular because those are invasive and they don't tell you anything, but they can reflect how messed up our system is. But it never hurts to do some basic searches before you give people money. That's all I have to say about that. There are a lot of people doing really good work. And if you want to support the good work no matter what, that's cool. I'm not going to judge you. But if you show up and get in my face, especially without a mask, or in the face of any of my protest kids, try to give them a guilt trip about unity without accountability, and insist that Trump's not that bad, fuck you. Who the fuck do you think you are? Just because we're engaging with the left doesn't mean that everyone has a safe belief system. A lot of us have gotten really complacent in assuming that everyone who shows up for the same reason feels the same way about the world that we do. I'm constantly horrified to learn that this isn't the case. And I'm even more horrified to know that a lot of us knew that and kept our mouths shut because I didn't want to get involved in it. I'm the troublemaker. I'm the rabble rouser. And I'm really here to come after electeds and not after others. But refusing to wear a mask in public, that is you're messing with people's safety. So why in the world would you bother trying to help the unhoused when you're breathing your germs all over them? These are the most vulnerable population. It's basic human decency. If you can't perform it, stay home. And if you really want to collect money to help people, I understand this is capitalism and we have to live under it, but an LLC? Really? You could just as easily do a nonprofit. If you wanted to stay away from both and say, I don't want to be part of the complex, I could get behind that. This, hell no. There we go. Going to get off that high horse and on to another. It's time to yell at City Council. Happy Yelling at City Council Day. I said what I said. I meant what I meant every word. I'll say it again. Try Jesus. Don't try me. I throw more than hands, y'all.
When DPD and Dottie surrounded our otherwise peaceful neighborhood and set up checkpoints in advance of a planned sweep of 4 tents on our block. Unfortunately, I'm becoming increasingly ashamed of our city and its lack of leadership on this issue. I know many of these complaints rest with the executive branch, but the mayor is inaccessible and unresponsive. Council has the power to set the legislative agenda and approve budgetary decisions. The solutions for homelessness clearly lie in things like the Colorado Village Collaborative and safe outdoor spaces, not massive government overreach and the militarization of our neighborhoods at great expense to taxpayers, before even mentioning the psychological impacts of treating our neighborhoods like criminals. On the evening of January 5th, I stepped outside my door and had to double take. Our normally quiet street in the heart of 5 Points had been turned into a fenced-in militarized checkpoint. The entire 3-block radius, surrounded in tall fencing and guarded at openings by armed police officers noting people's comings and goings. I couldn't even take out the trash that evening because the fencing across our alley had been attached to our neighbor's front porch without their permission. Again, I stepped onto an American street with fencing, barricades, police guards, all so they could evict, sometime the next day, 4 people living in tents on our block. They had been there for months and kept to themselves and bothered no one. This event was so much more traumatizing than anything our unhoused neighbors for months had ever done. Not only is it unjust to treat our unhoused neighbors like this, but taking over our neighborhood military style with fencing, barricades, and guards on every corner for almost a full 24 hours is completely absurd. On top of our rights, what a complete waste of taxpayer resources. How ashamed I am of our city, of its leaders, for pursuing these hurtful policies that have now escalated into full-on taking over our neighborhoods.
Yes!
This is not the city we should accept or stand for. We can do so much better than terrorizing and infringing on the rights of our citizens. This is an absurd abuse of power and a gross misuse of public funds to violently displace people that exacerbates the problem. Again, we should be building longer tables, not militarized walls in our communities. I strongly encourage you to use all the tools available to you to pursue proven policies that work, such as the Tiny House Village Collaborative and safe outdoor spaces, instead of this complete waste of taxpayer dollars and resources militarizing our neighborhoods. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Next up, we have Maddie Hughes.
Hi, can everyone hear me?
Go ahead, Maddie.
Thank you. So I want to quickly say that regarding bills 210061 and 210062, which you'll be voting on tonight, I really hope that you are focusing on small Black and brown businesses who've applied for funding in the past and not received help. And I worry that we won't consider equity when we're naming the criteria for businesses to be eligible. And just want to mention that Denver is one of the most gentrified cities in the US. So that would really just add insult to injury if we did not include them first. So I hope you'll have an equity lens to guide your criteria for which businesses are chosen. And unfortunately, I have to take most of my comment time to address a situation a few of us noticed in a recent meeting where you were discussing possible changes to meeting times. So I didn't imagine ever needing to address childish behavior from a city councilor publicly, but here we are. So I'm referring to the moment when President Gilmore cut off Councilwoman Sita Baca when she was speaking about proposed changes, and it had only been a minute and a half. Gilmore, you rudely cut her off. We all saw it, and I know I speak.
We ask that you direct your comments to council as a whole and refrain from referring to individual council members, please.
I'm going to keep going because my time's not up. So there was 3 minutes left at the end of the meeting, so Sita Baca had not been speaking long, and clearly there was time.
Oh my God, that was amazing.
She had to say. This was not a tit for tat situation as you tried to label it. We all saw you cut off comments from Sita Baca, and she simply stood up for herself because frankly, we all know you would never speak to another city council member.
We're going to ask that you respond to all of council
and I tweeted
not
you.
bring up individual council members. We're establishing decorum and asking that we don't
I would ask
call out
that you respect that same role when you're interrupting your colleagues in these times of heightened social change, as you always say. So thank you.
Good luck. Our next speaker is Walter Heidenfelder is our next speaker tonight.
That was amazing. Who was that? I love her. I want to be her best friend.
City Council, thanks again for
someone tell me who that was.
Your citizens and
please
doing a great job. In the week of Martin Luther King's birthday, it's a good time to remember 3 great men of the 20th century. I was fortunate enough growing up in my high school years in Chicago to have known all 3 through the media. My perception of Martin Luther King Jr. was that he's without a doubt one of the nicest people on the planet and very inspirational with messages of
I don't know. Her name didn't come up on the list.
Getting along. Hank Aaron was one of the greatest who ever played Major League Baseball, but he couldn't stay in the same hotel with his teammates because of racism. This was more than 100 years after the Emancipation Proclamation. Yet he was always kind and appreciative. My personal favorite was Malcolm X because he understood that white folks would never give up any power and would never treat blacks as equals without confrontation. The Black Panthers of California were ready to back him up. Lucky for us that Reverend King became more influential with his message of peace. It's a sad fact of our history that the boomer generation became more interested in the stock market than equality of our population. Thank you.
Thank you.
Here
Walter.
comes
Next up, we
Jesse.
have Jesse Paris.
Good evening, members of council, those watching at home. My name is Jesse Rashawn Paris, and I'm representing for Denver Homeless Out Loud, Black Star Action Movement for Self-Defense, Positive Action Committee for Social Change, as well as the Unity Party of Colorado and Mile High News. And I will be the next mayor of Denver in 2023. I want to speak on the sweep. As my colleagues have stated earlier, what do you expect people to move along to? This has become the mile high income city. You have to have mile high income to live here. And in 2021, we see it's just business as usual. So, Denver, you spent $2.5 million in 2019 lying to Denver voters, telling them that Initiative 300 wasn't the answer and that we can do better.
Woo!
Well, here we are 2 years later. In Denver, you're still not doing better. You're doing worse. And this council is complicit in that, along with the mayor and Dottie and Park and Rec and whatever other
Get him, Jesse.
agencies, entities that's responsible for these unhoused neighbor suites that are enrolled unconstitutional. And my organization is currently suing the city for these unconstitutional, inhumane suites. These are suites. These are not cleanups. Y'all need to tell the truth and stop lying to the public, because these are acts of genocide. This is ethnic cleansing, 21st century style. So while we're on the topic of sweeps, I want to update the public on the sweeps that are scheduled for this week. So this week, Wednesday, January 28th, 21st, 22nd, Park and Stout will be swept for the 10th time within the past year, proving that sweeping people does not work. Please come and support our unhoused community members at 21st, 22nd, Stout, and Park as they demand real housing and places they are allowed to survive. So bring the following things to assist residents. We ask that you bring a truck or any vehicle to help move: carts, bungee cords, rope, trash bags, food, coffee, cocoa, water. Your assistance is much appreciated. Somewhere around 6:30 a.m. and all morning, help will be needed. So, in closing, we can do better, Denver, but we can clearly see that was a lie, because we're doing nothing but worse. So, in 2023, get ready to be voted out of office. All members of city council that can continue to condone and complicit with these tweets, and the mayor's done. So whoever's going to be the next mayor, you need to do something about this, and I am going to be the next mayor. So get ready for it. Peace.
Yes, you will, Jesse.
Thank you.
Yes,
The
you
next
will.
speaker up is Terry Burnsett. Go ahead, Terry.
I'm Terry Burnsett from District 6. I'm part of the contingent here again to speak on behalf of our houseless neighbors. We are learning, I hope, to be careful about who is speaking for whom. Yet the people on the streets, because they have nowhere else viable to go, can find it hard to sign up for public comment these days.
Oh my
And
God,
as you
Terry
know, last year,
Burnsett!
over 200
Someone invite him to Allies to Abolitionists too.
We're accustomed to thinking of the dead as being silent. But history, theory, and art all remind us that the dead are speaking to us. Those still fighting to stay alive have things to tell us too. And in these times, if we're not listening now, well, that's why we from Allies to Abolitionists keep going back here. And other forums too, as we trust you've noticed. And notice you have. We hear that there are those among the council now who would like to change the schedule of the meetings in relation to public comment sessions. Some of us can't help feeling that this suggestion, if that's the term, is motivated by a desire to contain, shall we say, our campaign, if not stop the ears outright of the council and the community it represents to the cries of our most vulnerable.
Love him.
Others on the council would encourage the RNOs to become more responsive to residents and citizens. Sometimes they are. It was an RNO that fought so hard to introduce the group living text amendment on which you're scheduled to vote next month.
This is what happens when you do your homework, kids.
To support property owners, zoning, enforcement, development, planning. All of these too often are geared to serve the interests of profit and property at the expense of those who either make it run or have been left behind, or both. And again, our present multiple crises have exacerbated all of these tendencies. We insist that the council use your subpoena and other powers to at least accomplish a special audit of the traumatic displacements, or sweeps. Last week, we celebrated the holiday for Dr. King after the fashion of our fragmented times. No parade this year, which means at least we were spared the annual hagiography, the turning of a true revolutionary into an inoffensive civic saint. 53 years ago this spring,
Burns said, BURNSED, and he's a member of Allies to Abolitionists, just like me. You can join too, guys. Be part of the most badass group doing things in Denver, shaking up city council.
Regime couldn't stand. He was wedding the struggle for racial justice to class struggle. Are we hearing his voice in that message? And if not, what did
hey, all y'all can copy me on all emails reading city council people for filth to make sure there's a second set of eyes on it.
Yay!
Hi there. Good evening. I wanted to echo what my colleagues have been saying about the traumatic displacements that have been occurring in Denver. There have been over 40 since the pandemic began, just to put things into perspective. And I've heard comments about how, this whether to sweep or not is not a decision of the city council, but I would encourage, us to think about the power and the leverage that each of you as elected officials making, decisions that affect everyone's lives every day, the power that you have to question, to investigate, to put pressure on other parts of the city and other organizations within the city that are making these calls. So that's just an unacceptable kind of relinquishment of responsibility, in my opinion. And I would hope that that's not offered as an excuse for why nothing has been done. I would also like to address the meeting that was called, in which Police Chief Hagen was on and was responding to the report from the Independent Monitor. At one point in the meeting, there was it was brought up that one second here. It was brought up that Chief Hagen had mentioned that, George Floyd never would have happened in Denver.
Yep, that was some fuck shit.
And I just want to call attention to how disrespectful and negligent that comment was.
Go Tesco!
It has happened in Denver. Lest we forget Paul Castaway, Elijah McClain, and so many countless others. I'd be happy to send you a list of them. So to act like this can't happen, like the abuse from police can't lead to someone's murder in Denver is false. It is inaccurate. It's a lie. And it is so deeply disrespectful to the families who are suffering, who are grieving, and who have lost someone to the hands of police. But in the future, I would just hope that that we could, I was appalled. And
keep going, girl. You got this.
Not to mention that, he has not provided any actual tangible
Marvin Booker,
action
absolutely.
steps. He says he wants
Absolutely.
to get rid of his bias, which literally
Yes,
is
yes.
impossible. We know that from all research regarding bias. So I would just question who is running our police.
Thank you.
I would too, and they need to as well.
Our
Thank
next
you,
speaker
Tess.
Is Jeffrey Hirsch.
Hi, can you hear me?
Go ahead.
Hello, thank you. I live in Skyland neighborhood. Recently, walking my foster dog last week, I came upon a pile of dead squirrels in an alley.
Did you feed them
I
to the
removed them
homeless?
so other animals wouldn't eat them because I assumed that they were poisoned. Since then, they've piled up again behind someone's gate. Today, animal control came to talk to some people in the houses nearby. Animal control has been very helpful in looking into my comments to them. Anyway, no one in the area would either knew anything about it. They had seen them. They didn't know who poisoned them, if they were poisoned, or how they ended up in the alley. Anyway, after speaking to Mr. Joshua Golf from Animal Control, he told me about 3 ordinances, 8-122, 8-135, and 8-137. They all have to do with poisoning of animals in city limits, either by intent, by accident, how exclusive the poisoning is, and how the carcasses are disposed of. There's some sort of logical disconnect between the fact that the poisoning of squirrels, which is apparently they are deemed pests. I think of them as wildlife. Apparently other people think of them as pests. How they can be poisoned, because they can be poisoned legally, but not by leaving poison out where other animals can get hold of it. But how that can be controlled or anything, I think, is nearly impossible. So what I'm asking for is some more specific wording and possibly even a change to the poisoning of wildlife in the city, because it really, the things that are illegal really can't be addressed or discovered. And possibly even with the change of the regulation, they can't, but at least there'd be some teeth to the law. I just don't think there's any room in the city for going around poisoning wildlife when it's done by amateurs or done wrongfully. Stray cats, stray dogs, raptors, and raccoons, and anything else can get hold of these and end up also dying a painful death. So I think those ordinances need to be looked into and possibly changed. I just don't think there's any room in Denver for poisoning wildlife. They're not that so destructive that they have to be killed. I think that's about it. I would appreciate it if you looked into those ordinances for the wording and see if they can be changed to be more effective and possibly totally changed. And I guess that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Elizabeth Gerard.
I gotta say, months ago it was just me yelling at city council, and now that we've got this whole From Allies to Abolitionist group showing up every single week in public comment, it's like,
just want to
yeah.
ask that you vote yes on Bill 2015.
Thank you, Shannon.
Tonight.
Thank you.
Going to final vote, and I love seeing our tax dollars going to food and education. And I'm really excited to see these students at Bruce Randolph getting involved in food justice. So I hope that we pass that. And then I just also want to make a comment that this week's agenda feels pretty light, and I've been coming here for many months now, and for many weeks, many citizens have been coming here and asking you to take action against the cruel sweeps that continue to happen to our houseless neighbors. And it's really frustrating to come back week in week and not see any action or any bills being proposed or voted on. So I really hope that you will listen to the people who are coming to these meetings and take actions to stop these very cruel sweeps. Thank you for all your time and help.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Brian Wilson.
Hi, thank you.
Brian Wilson!
My name is Brian Wilson. I live in Congress Park. I'm in District 10, and I would like to echo everyone else from Allies to Abolitionists. Basically requesting Denver City Council to repeal the camping ban. Please. That's it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Our next speaker is Augustine Lewis.
Hello, Council. Thank you for the moment to speak tonight. My name is Augustine Lewis. I've lived in Council District 1 or District 1 for about 20 years. I've been attending meetings for the city. I've been attending council meetings, just listening in, as well as some DDPHE meetings and some other health and safety meetings. And as a resident of Denver, I'm really concerned about how we're handling our neighbors on the streets.
Yes!
I find it
Yes!
something that's a value
Yes!
that we need to
This is how you
have
organize people.
compassion, and I'm here to echo my colleagues' their sentiments tonight, that we need to look further into this and see how we are pushing
Do your
our
jobs.
money
Do your
in our
jobs.
city towards
That's right.
something that is actually what I've been looking into and doing research with colleagues from allies to abolitionists.
I
and
love you
finding that
more.
this
Every
isn't
time
a
I hear them
solution
say
that's working.
allies to
And we know
abolitionists,
that
well done,
through
well done,
talking
well
to
done,
service
well done.
providers and other people, there's a misalignment of access to resources. And so when people do come to the suites to provide access to resources, they're not often able to help individuals that are couples, individuals that are families, individuals with
right.
non-binary,
That's right.
how they identify, issues with if they have animals that they love dearly. These are not ways, these are people that are left out of our shelter system, and they are continuing to be swept over and over and over again. And I am here to request that City Council do something where maybe we could create an active conversation with mutual aid organizations and start chiseling out what these real workable solutions that are happening in little tiny bits with the safe outdoor shelter, or how some organizations have actually even paid for some of the porta potties up front. There are better solutions. I know that we have the ingenuity and we have the resource to try and do something a little different than, not a little, but a lot different than what we've been doing, so that we can support these people in their lives on the streets and getting back to where they need to be. So I thank you, council members who have come out against the suites. And I just ask that we do something now, that there's action steps taken. Seems like we've had a lot of talk. And, I'd like to see some action.
A little less
Thank you so much for your
conversation, a
time.
little more action.
Thank you. Our last speaker this evening is Katie Blakey.
My girl, Katie! My girl!
My name is Katie Blakey, and I live in District 10. I'm here to ask you to please do everything in your power to stop the traumatic displacement of our unhoused neighbors. You probably saw the Denver Post article last week that showed that these displacements cost taxpayers more than $400,000 last year, and that's just for contract fees. There's so many better ways to use that money. I listened to the host presentation at the Safety Committee last week and was really struck by Britta Fisher's response to Councilman Black's question about people in encampments who refuse services offered by the city before or during a displacement. I wasn't able to find the exact quote, but she said something along the lines of that rather than stigmatizing people as service resistant, maybe we need to consider that we're not offering them the right services.
That's right.
The host team has been working so hard to provide services to our unhoused community during this unbelievably challenging time. And they've been doing fantastic work. But their efforts, especially around establishing trust and connecting people with services, are being continually undermined by the city's relentless and inhumane displacements. It's so frustrating to hear city officials use poor sanitation as a justification for these displacements over and over.
My girl!
They refuse to provide adequate bathroom and trash access throughout the city. And it's despicable to use finding needles as justification for trashing all of someone's survival gear in the middle of winter during a pandemic. I'm sure I'm not the only one tired of hearing folks from the city play the victim when Denverites ask them for accountability into their actions. Multiple times, I've heard people from DDPHE and the Department of Safety respond to questions about displacements by complaining about people not using their sanitized terms enforcement action or cleanup. They continually dodge questions about the cost of space and whether continued displacements do anything at all to mitigate the issues the city uses to justify them. They tell us that they do so much for homeless people, as though we're just supposed to ignore the repeated trauma that they're inflicting on our most vulnerable residents. As city council members, you have more power than you think, or more than you'll acknowledge. City Council is responsible for
Right.
the urban camping ban, and you're responsible for remedying its horrific impacts. To start with, use your subpoena power to determine how much these traumatic displacements are costing us, and do not relent until you have an answer. Thank you.
Love you, Katie.
Thank
Go,
you.
Katie Blakey.
That concludes our general public
Hell
comment
yes!
session. In these times of social change, it's critical that members of the public have more opportunities to be heard.
Yes,
by
it
leaders
is. And you trying to
all
shut him
levels of
down, you
government.
dumb
The
bitch.
next general public comment session will be held before the meeting of council on Monday, February 1st. Sign up begins at 12
They're
noon
trying to
on
change
Friday,
it, you
January
guys. They are
29th.
trying to change it
Thanks
to make
for
it harder for
attending.
you to
City
show
Council
up.
looks forward
Do
to
not
hearing
let
from you
them.
all again. Please
That's
stay
what
on this
most of
meeting
public comment
to
tonight
attend
was
the
about
regular
before they
session of
came back to him
Denver
for being
City
like,
Council,
hey,
which will begin momentarily
stop
after
killing the
a
homeless,
break.
please.
Please
That'd be
stay
real
with
nice.
us.
Thanks. Yay. So see, guys, it matters. All of this matters. So did you hear that? Did you hear the comments? Katie Blakey, you're my girl. Shannon Hoffman, Jeff Campbell, you two have to be so proud of what you built. I mean, not only did you get some justice for Rivera Stinnett, more than he would have gotten if you hadn't been doing all that you did. I mean, God, and now you've got like this huge 1,000-member strong group of allies who are coming together to do things and make change. Guys, I promise you, change happens at city council. It happens at the local level. It is boring. It is terrible. And that is why I'm here doing what I do, ignoring my children. I like them, man. I didn't have 4 kids so I could hide from them. I have 4 kids because I freaking love kids. And I'm doing
Welcome
this
to
because
the
it's
City Council
important.
meeting of
It's
Monday,
so important, and
January
I try to keep
25th,
this interesting so that you will
2021.
stay involved,
Council members,
so that
please
it will
mute
be
your
better
mics
city
and
for
rise
all
as
of
you're
our
able
kids.
to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Oh, you can fuck your
I
Pledge of Allegiance.
to the flag of the United
Oh,
States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
for white people,
indivisible, with
for white
liberty
people,
and justice for all.
for white people, for all white people. Oh, there's Herndon. Glad you could join us, Herndon.
Please continue to mute your mics and join Councilmember Seda Baca as she leads us in the Denver City Council land acknowledgement.
You, Brad Wilson.
Sorry, guys, I'm trying to pull it up. My computer just crashed.
The world, yes.
Would you like
The
me to
boring
go
stuff
ahead
is
and
where it
read
all,
it,
and they make it
Councilwoman?
boring to keep people from showing
Sure,
up.
go for it.
Okay. The Denver City Council honors and acknowledges that the land on which we reside is the traditional territory of the Ute, Cheyenne, and Arapaho peoples.
And yet
We
still
also
we refuse to
recognize the
deny
48
them aid
contemporary
in
tribal
forms of the
nations
taxes collected
that
on the land that
historically
we stole
tied to
from
the
them,
lands
basic
that make
human
up the state of
dignity, the right to
Colorado.
vote, as we
We
continue
honor
to try to
elders
breed
past,
them
present,
out
and
through the
future,
one-drop
and
system
those who
designed
stewarded this
to
land
eliminate
throughout generations. We
all
also
First
recognize that
Nations and all
government,
Native
academic,
Americans
and cultural
in any way we
institutions
possibly
were founded
can,
upon
while
and
continuing to climb their
impact
backs and steal
exclusions
more.
and
Thank you.
erasures of indigenous peoples. May this acknowledgement demonstrate a commitment to working to dismantle ongoing legacies of oppression
I don't think he was there.
and inequities and recognize
I'm in
the
the
current
Zoom.
and
I don't think he's
future
there.
contributions of indigenous communities in Denver.
To the
Madam
StreamYard.
Secretary, roll call, please.
Oh, okay. I haven't been a speaker in a while. I guess I need to go there and do that.
Black.
But you know what? I can say fuck Herndon
Seda Baca.
even when I'm not sure he's there.
Clark.
Here.
Flynn.
Here.
Herndon.
Here.
Hines.
Here.
Cashman.
Here.
Kinich. Here.
So I see your question, Tess.
Ortega.
I use StreamYard as a software
Sandoval.
to live stream to multiple platforms simultaneously. So
Sawyer.
this is going to
Here.
Wall of Moms Denver. It's
Torres.
a private page. Wall of Moms
Here.
Denver, the public page.
Madam President.
My public-facing
Here.
Facebook page.
13
Not
members
my
present.
personal one where I put pictures of
There
my
are
kids,
13
but the
members
one
present.
for all
Council
my
has a quorum.
my
Approval of
work.
the minutes. Are there
I'll protest
corrections
work.
to the minutes of January
Twitter
19th?
and
Seeing none, the minutes stand
Twitch
approved.
and YouTube.
Council announcements.
So
Are
you can get
there
to it all
any
kinds of
council
places.
announcements. Councilwoman Sawyer.
Wild.
Thanks, Madam President. Just wanted to remind everyone in the East Colfax neighborhood that Councilman Herndon and I will be hosting another information
Right now,
session
I'm only getting
on
comments on
Wednesday
Facebook.
night regarding
If anyone
our
replies
potential
on
legislative
Twitter,
rezoning of the East Colfax
they have to
neighborhood for
be
ADUs. We did one
watching the
last
live
Wednesday
stream
as
to
well,
make a
so you can
comment.
look
It's
at
weird.
both of our social media pages for that video if you'd like some information, but we will be hosting another one this Wednesday night at 6 p.m.
What is she hosting?
So please join us for more information in the Q&A session. Thanks
I
so
would
much.
love to join you, Amanda Sawyer. I would love it.
Thank you, Madam President. We just learned today through an announcement from the governor that there is a statewide vaccine hotline that has now been launched. I'm going to say it slowly, but I'm sure it's also, if you have internet access, something you can Google. But it's 1-877-COVAXCO. So 1-877-268-2926. And for folks, I've been getting calls, I know others have as well, who are not affiliated with the major hospital system, and their individual primary care doctor is telling them they don't have, vaccine at their doctor's office. This is a great place to start. It's just launched today. I'm not sure that they are going to have all the answers that everyone needs, because we, of course, don't have all the vaccine doses that we need. So there is going to be some needing to be patient and to be waiting until that supply increases from the companies and from the federal government, who allocates them to our state and then down to our county. But I think the good news is at least there's a place
what we need to do? We've got to be Jesse Paris.
Now that is centralized.
I will be a resident of Denver in 2023. I'm a resident of Denver now, and you will listen to me.
268-2926.
Oh,
thanks, Madam President.
We really should, yeah.
Councilman Hines.
Thank you, Madam President. Shortly after I took office, I started a weekly live stream on Friday afternoons at 1:30, and we are continuing to do that live stream this Friday. We have Andrew Webb as a guest to talk about the group living proposal that will be coming shortly before coming before council shortly. So if you live in District 10 and you want to get caught up on the latest from group living and the changes that have occurred throughout 2020, there were a lot of changes from about mid 2020 to today. So if you want to know what the latest is, please tune in.
Any opportunity we have to show up and ask questions,
Facebook and Twitter, Periscope,
really loudly,
YouTube,
I think we need to take it. It's called civic duty.
At denverperfect10.com.
And I love taking a big old duty anywhere Herndon happens to be.
Survey. We have about 1,000 responses so far, and it's technically closed. It's past the date, but we haven't actually turned off the survey just yet. So, if you want to take the survey, please do it now. And we'll be talking about some of the survey results on Friday afternoon. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilman Hines. Up next, we have Councilwoman Sandoval.
Thank you, Madam President. Once a month in Council District 1, we have the opportunity to work with our partners at Community Planning and Development or the Department of Transportation. And so this Friday, from 11 to 12:30, or usually 11 to 12, on Facebook Live, we will be going over the Tennyson Street is going through a parking management plan. So I wanted to make sure that my constituents were aware of the upcoming changes.
Oh my God, y'all, breaking news. A federal judge has partially granted a motion for preliminary injunction in Denver homeless encampment suites lawsuit. The most significant part of the order is that Denver must provide 48 or more hours notice prior to the sweep, even when the city sees public health or safety risks. We did it.
To seeing you this Friday. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilwoman Sandoval. And Councilwoman Kniech, are you back up?
Yes, I didn't know if my colleague Councilman Sandoval wanted to mention cabinet in the community tomorrow night. I didn't want to steal her thunder, but I wondered if maybe you were planning to announce that as well.
I can't. I can't find the announcements in my inbox. I know my staff put it, but I can't find it. And so if you have the info, and
check Twitter, Robert.
I would bat to you and you could help me out tonight. I'm a little all over the place. Thank you.
We're a team. That's great. Well, I'm proud to be an at-large councilwoman who also represents the areas included in Council District 1, which is Northwest Denver, and the mayor's office.
McNulty adds that the ruling recognizes that homeless folks have constitutional rights just like the rest of us, and Denver can't just violate those without any repercussions.
Where they went to different areas of the city and had presentations from several members of the administration, followed by a fair, a resource fair where people could learn more about city services. So they are moving that format online, and the first of those events is happening tomorrow night, which is Tuesday night. And it is starting at 5:30 p.m. And I think that the best thing to do would be to go to denvergov.org and then maybe put cabinet in the community in the search bar and see if you can find it that way, because
you're a life
I think
banned
the
from
link
Twitter.
is going
What
to be
did you
just
do?
a little bit too long to read here on the air. But hopefully you can find that information or contact either of our council offices, Councilwoman Sandoval's office or my office, and we'll be sure to get you the Zoom link. So hope folks will join us, and there'll be some recognizing of local heroes in each district at these meetings, and then some presentations and information about the COVID response, of course, as the top of mind priority. So, and that is open to, it's in focused on Council District 1, but I think that it is a public meeting. So thank you.
Oh, well, thank you, Councilwoman Kanich and Councilwoman Sandoval for the teamwork there to make sure and get that information out to the public. And seeing no other hands raised, I do have an announcement. Our council secretary, rightly so, had brought this to my attention today, and letting the public know and everyone that written testimony on agenda items is accepted and submitted to the public record when sent to the Denver City Council inbox.
Yeah, she's pretty good with social media. Funny enough, if you go to her Twitter and you go to like
for public hearing,
comments,
uploaded,
it's not just like what she does. She likes and responds to all kinds of things, y'all.
To DenCC. It's DEN.
It's not a total win. It's just like
at denvergov.org. Testimony
so right now the groups are going to continue.
Members or staff is also accepted, but please be sure to include DenCC at denvergov.org if you would like your testimony to be included in the public record. If you have any questions or need more information on how to submit testimony to the public record, please call our front office at 720-337-2020, 720-337-2020. And so any testimony that was received by council members or the central staff today will be included in the public record. But moving forward tomorrow, if it doesn't have the DenCC at denvergov.org CC'd, it won't be included in the public record. It was becoming unwieldy to try to go through all of the forwarded emails that we might receive from a council office. And in the interest of the public record, we didn't want to miss anybody's important testimony.
So we decided to stop
and we wanted
taking
to make sure
emails.
that was included in the public record. So I appreciate the council secretary alerting me to that, and we wanted to get that out to the public. And so
honestly, I don't know.
Forward, there are no presentations, there are no communications, there are no proclamations. Madam Secretary, please read the bill for introduction.
From Finance and Governance, 2118, a bill for an ordinance amending the classification and pay plan for employees in the career service and for certain employees not in the career service.
Thank you. Council members, this is your last opportunity to call out an item. Councilmember Seda Baca, will you please make the motions for us this evening?
Of course, Council President.
Thank you. Now I'll do a recap. Under resolutions, we have no items called out. Under bills for introduction, we have no items called out. Under bills for final consideration, no items have been called out. And under pending, no items have been called out. That concludes the items to be called out. All bills for introduction are ordered published. Council members, remember this is consent or block vote, and you will need to vote aye. Otherwise, this is your last chance to call out an item for a separate vote. Councilmember Seda Baca, will you please put the resolutions for adoption and the bills on final consideration for final passage on the floor?
I move that all resolutions be adopted and bills on final consideration be placed upon final consideration and do pass in a block for the following items: 21-060, 0060, 21-0061, 21-0062, 21-0011.
No, you're right, they are.
1390, 21.
I do not see how Tess and Anna do what they do week in, week out. They're angels.
21,
And they're amazing.
20-1527.
Thank you. It has been moved. May I get a second? Thank you, Councilman Flynn, for the second. Madam Secretary, roll call.
Black.
Aye.
Cedabaca.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Flynn.
Aye.
Herndon.
Aye.
Hines.
Aye.
Cashman.
Aye.
Kinich.
Aye.
Ortega.
Aye.
Sandoval.
Aye.
Sawyer.
Aye.
Torres.
Aye.
Madam President.
Aye. Madam Secretary, close the voting and announce the results.
13 ayes.
13 ayes. The resolutions have been adopted and the bills have been placed upon final consideration and do pass. Tonight, there will be a required public hearing on Council Bill 20-1560, designating 6400 Montview Boulevard as a structure for preservation. Anyone wishing to speak on this matter must go online and sign up during the recess of council. And if there are no objections from members of council, we will need to take about a 16-minute recess because we cannot start our public hearings until 6 p.m. And so if members will please remember to turn off your cameras and mute your microphones, and we will reconvene at 6 p.m. Thank you.
Get in there, y'all. You got to comment, make it. We got to be LaShawn Paris. We've got to be Jesse Paris. We've got to be acting like the next mayor of Denver and showing up at every single comment, making our voices heard. Otherwise, they'll say that we didn't CC anyone correctly, and so our comments won't become part of the public record. Nope. I've seen nothing about the good governance training on Friday. Set up now for public comment and committee. It's time to go, y'all. Whew. By the way, allies to abolitionists, almost every single person in the public comment tonight is a member of the same group that I am. It's Emancipation Theaters. From Allies to Abolitionists, I am proud that we got hooked up early on when they showed up asking, like, how do we do this? And I said, this is how city council works. Go, go, go. And I'm thrilled that I was a small part of that, because back then it was just me yelling at city council by myself back in October. And then Shannon and Cohen and Jeff Campbell all got involved. And now it's every single week we are getting fire, beautiful, vicious public comments. So if you hear from Allies to Abolitionists over and over again, or A2A for short, that is a public group. You are free to join it. We are fighting for abolition. We are trying to hold electeds accountable in every way, shape, or form. And we do a lot of this because change happens at the hyper local level. And it's exciting. Thank you. I think A2A is the best year. I appreciate that. Woo. I'm also sweating like crazy because this is my outdoor helping out in the dark jumpsuit, and I did not change out of it before starting this. So I'll wait until they go back in session and do something really boring, and then I'll go change it. That's been fired tonight. You were fired, Tess. Did you see the screenshot I sent in the? If you go up in the group chat in the research team Facebook chat, I took a screenshot when Adam Norris made a comment saying, yeah, Tess. And I thought you might want to keep that because it was great. It's like, it's not just me telling you that you're amazing. It is the whole damn world telling you that you, in fact, are amazing, Tess Doherty. And you too, Katie Blakey. Love y'all. Yes. That's right. We also have the Facebook group, though. Let me see if I still have it. Nope. So while we're waiting, we're also going to break down what I'm seeing for the injunction in the Denver Homeless Out Loud lawsuit. So it looks like a couple things. A federal judge has partially granted motion for preliminary injunction. So most significant part is that Denver has to provide 48 or more hours notice prior to a sweep. So technically before it was 7 days, and they just weren't doing it at all. They were showing up without notice a lot. This is significant because the city of Denver had been sweeping certain encampments without providing encampment residents with notice before the sweep started. This is true, but we're ignoring the fact that that was illegal, clearly. Okay. Additionally, judge says city must provide 7-day notice for typical sweeps, which they have not been doing, which it should already be doing pursuant to past settlement agreement. The judge denied the rest of the claims in the ruling on the motion for preliminary injunction. A noteworthy thing, the judge refers to the sweeps as sweeps throughout his order. At this point, many journalists, including those at Westward, refer to the sweeps as sweeps. It's really just Denver city officials at this point who take issue with that word. Martinez, well, I take issue with the word because humans are not garbage, and it's a dehumanizing word, and we need to call them what they are, forcible displacements. But that's me. Martinez denied the other elements of the motion for preliminary injunction, including the argument that the way in which sweeps were being conducted in contravention of CDC guidelines was violating the Constitution by putting homeless individuals at a higher risk of contracting COVID. Martinez also denied claims in the motion related to the office of the governor, Jerry Polis, who was named in the lawsuit due to the state of Colorado's involvement in one sweep this past year. While we didn't win the entire war, it's a battle that's been won in the interim. It's disappointing because we were looking to stop the sweeps entirely during COVID-19. And the attorney for the plaintiffs adds that the ruling recognized that homeless folks have constitutional rights just like the rest of us in Denver, can't just violate those without any repercussions. So no, it's not a win. It's not a total loss either. We love our A2A fam for sure. And no, who knows? So where did you hear about this city council good governance training on Friday? Did that come up in one of the other meetings that I didn't attend? It's entirely possible. They have a lot of meetings. If you know more about that, share with me, please. Because it's happy sitting at council day. To be clear, oh, here we go. Council can repeal the sweeps and camping ban. We are unfortunately choosing not to instead of wasting your scarce taxpayer dollars on militarization of neighborhoods that do nothing to solve the problem. Ooh, okay, putting this in over here. And so there, Candy Sadabaka says that yes, we can stop the sweeps, we just won't. What else is happening? Sorry, as I catch up with Twitter over here. Yes, traumatic displacements, forced disappearances. Thank you. Yeah, I don't like the word sweeps, but I'm not going to come at Connor for this because he is new on the beat. Newish covering this. It had been Dave Sachs for the longest time, and I realize they're not the same institution specifically. Just saying, I'm not going to come at Connor as hard because I have only had positive interactions with him to this point. But yeah, sweeps is a terrible dehumanizing word, and it's one we need to not use. Just like they are not homeless, they have a home. We are forcing them out of it. So we are forcibly displacing the unhoused community. Ops meeting. Okay, yeah, I didn't watch the ops meeting. Thank you. Of course it does. Stacey talked about it. I'm not sure. I'll text her and ask, or rather, I'll come up with her. She's got enough going on at the moment. I don't think, is Lisa Calderon on Twitter? I don't think she is. Keep the thread going. It is really hard to keep these threads going, y'all. That's probably been, strategic incompetence. Yeah, they're the worst. Don't get me started. The only thing that pisses me off more is the strategic Spanglish. Like every once in a while, they have to remind us that, like, I suffer oppression. Like, yeah, but you're white passing. You have to, like, it's not. You're not having the same experience as other people. By the way, do you guys know that Twitter, you can do lists? They have changed my life. I got to tell you, there's nothing more fun than having lists of topics I can just click on and see the list in Twitter. It makes me so happy. My feed is so much more organized. It doesn't scare me anymore. Yeah, I know. It's so tiresome. Hancock is not the most vulnerable. Hancock has forgotten every promise he ever made. Don't get me started. The most vulnerable, my ass. It's the most insulated. It's the most out of touch. The 48 hours now will be before any cleanup activity, regardless of whether the city deems an immediate health risk. So the 48-hour sweeps notices for small camps, less than 10 tents. And now it's 7 days for all sweeps, unless it's an emergency, which has to be cleared through something else. Oh, the things at the bottom. People's comments. Yeah, the people's comments. When I'm on StreamYard, all the comments, because I'm streaming to 9 platforms simultaneously, the comments come here to me, and then I can click them and put them on the screen like this. But if I haven't clicked them, you can't put them up. That way, I have some control over what goes up and when. So, and plus, it makes it nicer. The praise for you. So there's that. Okay, I'm going back to one place here. Okay. Hancock has sold us out to the developers, but this is why we still, it's not conspiracy theory to follow the money, and it's not stalking. As I was saying in the beginning of this, it's become doing any sort of look on a person or verification is now reduced to stalking or invasive, and that's not okay. You have to know who is backing a politician. You have to know the funding source before you show up. And when it comes to Mayor Hancock, his largest funding sources are the founding families of Denver, the land developers who own all the land. So with that in mind, when you take a look at the budget through that lens, he's protecting people who have the most money, not those who have the least. He's protecting like the art museum, which is, again, the wealthiest families of Denver are on the board so that they don't, and when you're on the board and there's a budget deficit, you have to dig into your pockets and support it yourselves. So he's making sure all his rich friends don't have to dig into their own pockets to support private institutions, nonprofit institutions. And that's kind of gross. Instead of helping people on the ground who have to dig through trash cans to put food in their bellies. It's gross and terrible. And no, he's not the most vulnerable. So he sold us out to the developers, but that's always what he was going to do. That's what Joe and Clark's going to do. He's a developer. And he, by sitting back and saying nothing, as little as he can get away with, is positioning himself for a mayoral run too. But I tell you, the next person to run is going to be this woman right here. She's one of our at-large reps. I got a lot to say about it, but it doesn't matter what I have to say about it. It should matter what you guys have to say about it. But by this point, we should have learned better than, oh, he'll be good because he's black. She'll be good because she's gay. They will be, Democrats have sold us out. Just because a person is oppressed in some way or experiences oppression on some level does not mean that they understand that and are willing to fight the system that gives them privilege in other places. Oh, yeah, I told y'all, sorry. Those sweeps cost a lot more than what people think because no one was factoring in the fencing, putting it up, the taking it down, all this stuff. It's like 25 grand per sweep. I'm like, no, that is a gross underrepresentation. That fencing and protecting the fencing, because those fences, once it's up, it's guarded round the clock till it comes back down by a minimum of number of police officers. So if there's a fence and it has to be protected by a police officer, that means no less than like 2 officers per 6 feet of fence or something ridiculous like that. The costs are astronomical. They're laughably large. They're so large, I understand that people want to hesitate putting it all together, because who would believe it? At the same time, what choice do we have? So thank you for doing that good work. I know. It makes me physically ill. It should make everyone physically ill. That's money thrown away. $400,000 a year in the Post published. Well, that's why, again, in the last meeting, when I kept saying, actually think of, and I decided to leave everybody alone on Friday, because I know I show up, and I don't mean to disrupt the work people are doing or stir the pot, but rather we did hard work trying to get a lot of these numbers over the summer to come up with the first estimate of what it cost to guard what we called the pig pen, which was the fence around Civic Center Park after they forced the unhoused out during the summer. And the conservative estimate was that it was $4 million just for that fence, because all 4 sides were guarded all of the time. Yeah, me too. Because the true costs are so much higher. The first time I ran the numbers, I came up with $125,000 per sweep. And I was told, that's absurd. You're just wrong. I'm like, no, I was thorough. So I love watching what you guys come up with.
We have one public hearing tonight.
I'm glad you said that to his face.
Begin their remarks by
and I'm
telling
proud of
the
you.
council
Congratulations
their
on
names
Sober
and
for
cities
11
of
years.
residence, and if they feel
It's
comfortable
amazing.
doing so, their home addresses. When
Yes,
called
we do.
upon, please wait until our meeting host promotes you to speaker. When you are promoted, your screen will flash and say reconnecting to meeting. Please do not leave the meeting. You will be reconnected and will need to turn on your camera
I hate to miss
if
this.
you have
I'm
one and your
sweating
microphone.
buckets. I'll be right
If you have
back.
signed up to answer questions only, state your name and note that you are available for questions of council. Speakers will have 3 minutes. There is no yielding of time. You will see your time flash on the screen when you have 30 seconds left. Speakers must stay on the topic of the hearing and must direct their comments to the council members. Please refrain from profane or obscene speech. Direct your comments to council as a whole, and please refrain from individual or personal attacks. Councilmember Seda Baca, will you please put Council Bill 20-1560 on the floor for passage?
I move that Council Bill 20-1560 be placed upon final consideration and do pass.
It has been moved. May I get a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilwoman Ortega. The required public hearing for Council Bill 20-1516 is open. May we please have the staff report, please?
Good evening, Council. My name is Jenny Buddenborg. I'm a senior city planner in community development and planning, or excuse me, community development. Let me share my screen here real quick with you guys. Is that coming through okay for you?
Thanks, Jenny.
Okay, great. Tonight I'm presenting on the proposed historic designation of the residential property located at 6400 Montview Boulevard in the South Parkville neighborhood. The ability to designate individual landmarks and historic districts in the city and county of Denver was set forth in the 1967 Landmark Preservation Ordinance. Since then, the city has designated 351 individual landmarks and 56 historic districts scattered across the city, as you see indicated on the map. This equals roughly 7,000 buildings, or 4% of the city, that are designated landmarks. The designation process is community-driven, and applications can be submitted by a variety of persons. For this property, the owner submitted the designation application. The owner is Rebecca Rogers. Again, this is located in the South Parkville neighborhood. This is Council District Number 8, Christopher Herndon, and the current zoning is USUE. A property must meet the following criteria for historic designation. It needs to be more than 30 years old or of exceptional importance. It needs to meet at least 3 out of 10 significance criteria, maintain integrity, and be considered by the Landmark Preservation Commission for relation to historic context or theme. And I'll run through each of these criteria with you this evening. The The structure, built in 1936, is more than 30 years old. It also meets 3 significance criteria that you see highlighted on the screen. It meets C, to embody the distinctive visible characteristics of an architectural style or type. It meets D, to be a significant example of the work of a recognized architect or master builder. And it also represents F, to represent an established and familiar feature of the neighborhood, community, or contemporary city due to its prominent location or physical characteristics. These criteria illustrate what makes the property at 6400 Montview Boulevard significant for historic designation, which is primarily its design excellence. And let's go through each of these criteria in more detail now. The single unit residence at 6400 Montview Boulevard embodies the distinctive visible characteristics of the Spanish eclectic style. It possesses several identifying features, including an asymmetrical facade, stucco cladding with decorative brick, tile roof with multiple levels, elaborate chimney top, arches above principal windows, arched front entry with decorative ironwork and sconces, balcony with iron railing on primary facade, and
so what's happening now, this
porch
is really
and round
boring. They're
tower at
talking
the
about what's
rear
going to
that
get
you
the
can see
historic
just above the
designation and then all the new shit, what
the
it's going to
Spanish
look
eclectic
like as
style
they
often
develop the
also
neighborhood.
includes elaborate landscaping features, and this property is no exception, with its flat stone walkway depicting moon phases leading to the front entry, which you can see in the second image from the left, and flagstone back patio with sun imagery. It is one of a few Spanish eclectic style houses in the South Parkville neighborhood. Its construction occurred at the tail end of the popularity of Spanish eclectic style in the United States that spanned 1915 to 1940. The property is a significant residential example of the work of recognized architect J. Roger Music and master builder Harry M. Bittman. Often designing in partnership with his older brother G. Meredith Music on civic and religious commissions, such as the Mae Bonfils Theater and Library on the Loretto Heights campus, which is currently under redevelopment. This venture represents the only known Spanish eclectic style residence designed by J. Roger Music in Denver. It is consistent with his residential designs in that it is a straightforward interpretation of the Spanish eclectic style and includes a prominent main entrance accented with a large decorative surround. It differs in its use of stucco as opposed to brick or stone, which is more commonly found on Music's residential designs. A graduate of the Beaux-Arts Institute of Design in New York City, Music's commercial, civic, and religious designs have gained more recognition to date, including the Berkeley Park Chapel that was recently designated a Denver landmark, and the Colorado State Capitol Annex. Music was a Denver-based architect from the late 1920s to late 1960s. He partnered with master builder and property owner Harry M. Bittman on the design and construction of 6400 Montview Boulevard. Bittman's career in Denver spanned from 1928 to 1967 and included both residential real estate development and construction. He served as president of the Home Realty Company, was a founding member of Quality Home Builders, Inc., and formed the Bittman Construction Company. His partnership with J. Roger Music on the design of this property influenced Bittman to build a similar Spanish eclectic style residence at 4833 East 6th Avenue in 1937 that is not credited to J. Roger Music. This influence took place early in Bittman's long-lasting career, making this a significant example of his work. And lastly, for the significance criteria, the property represents an established and familiar feature of the neighborhood due to its physical characteristics as the only true two-story Spanish eclectic style residence and its prominent location along Montview Boulevard. Montview Boulevard, between Colorado Boulevard and Monaco Parkway, consists of large residences and lots designed to be prominent with more modest residences tucked into the side streets. This stretch of road and green space that comprises Montview Boulevard is part of Denver's City Beautiful Movement Parkway's historic district, which you can see indicated on the map shaded in brown. The property at 6400 Montview Boulevard stands out among the other large residences along the parkway that are primarily Tudor Revival and ranch styles constructed of brick. Its stucco-clad walls and distinctive design elements stand in contrast to its surroundings, making it a familiar feature of the South Parkville neighborhood. In respect to change over time, the property retains a high degree of integrity and has experienced minimal alteration. It retains integrity of location, setting, feeling, and association as it is in its original location, is still used as a private residence, and the surrounding residential context has been largely unaltered since original construction of the property. Integrity of design, materials, and workmanship have been impacted with the replacement of the original windows and garage door. However, key character-defining features of the structure, like the tile roof, decorative metalwork and brickwork, stucco cladding, arch surrounds, decorative flagstone walkway and back patio, and a rear second-story porch and tower are preserved, so the property retains the identity for which it is significant. Lastly, the property meets several historic contexts with a 1936 period of significance. A historic context refers to the cultural, social, religious, economic, and/or political conditions that existed during a certain time and provides the background necessary to understand how and why a structure or district may have historic, architectural, geographic, or cultural significance. In other words, the context is not what makes a property or properties significant, but rather provides a framework for understanding what does make it significant. In the case of 6400 Montview Boulevard, the property is significant for its architecture and design excellence. As for its historic context, it was constructed during the Great Depression and represents residential development by the affluent that happened at that time in Denver neighborhoods. It was also built during the time when racial segregation caused by real estate development was occurring in Denver and cities across the nation due to redlining efforts that began with the creation of the Federal Housing Administration in 1934. Parkville was an overwhelmingly white populated neighborhood at the time this property was developed, and the building's original owner fit that demographic. The property also relates to the theme of housing near Denver's parks and parkways. The Park and Parkway system, as part of the City Beautiful movement, was designed to be an integrated system of stately public buildings and appealing surrounding neighborhoods. Development of the property at 6400 Montview Boulevard occurred much later than the most active years of the original design and implementation of Denver's City Beautiful movement in the early 1900s. However, it still falls within this context through development of Montview Boulevard as a City Beautiful Parkway, stemming from City Park and bookending at Monaco Street Parkway, as you can see in the image on the screen. In summary, the property meets all criteria for historic designation. It is 84 years old. It meets 3 designation criteria, C, D, and F. It maintains its integrity and relates to several historic contexts. 5 individuals submitted emails that support the designation and none in opposition. Therefore, staff recommends approval to designate 6400 Montview Boulevard as a structure for preservation. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, Jenny. And tonight, Council has received 4 written comments on Council Bill 1560. There are 4 submitted comments in favor of the application and no submitted comments in opposition of the application. All members of Council that are present have certified that they have read each of the submitted written comments. Do any members need more time in order to read all of the written testimony that was submitted? Seeing none, Council Secretary, let the record reflect that all written testimony, both in favor and in opposition of Council Bill 1560, has been read by each member of Council, and all written testimony will be submitted to the official record of the hearing. We have 5 individuals signed up to speak this evening, and our first speaker up is the applicant, Rebecca Rogers.
That's correct.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for considering my house for designation. My journey to designate my home at 6400 Montview began several years ago. In 2014, I joined the Board of Historic Denver because I was passionate about preserving and celebrating the unique history of Denver. As I learned more about the history of this great city, I felt more passionate about working to preserve its unique and limited historic structures and neighborhoods. As a result, in 2015, I hosted a community meeting at the Parkville Library to educate people in the neighborhood about historic districts. I firmly believed Parkville was a perfect place to create a historic district and hoped others would feel the same. Out of this meeting, a group of approximately 10 neighbors started meeting twice a month to work towards creating a historic district. I was really hoping that we would all agree on an area to tackle for the district that would include my house. But we had voted and we had all decided that instead of that, we would try and tackle the first subdivision in Parkville. As we started our efforts in earnest to work on the district, I pledged to seek to have my home individually designated. And as the neighborhood historic district has taken many turns and even more years, I decided to move forward with work on my own designation. When I moved to Denver in 2003 from Milwaukee, I was looking for a neighborhood, one like the many neighborhoods that existed in Milwaukee, with the large trees, the parkways, and the historic homes. I was surprised to discover not many such neighborhoods existed, and when I happened upon Parkville, I fell in love. I would drive to the neighborhood just to take walks and to house watch up and down the streets. Even back then, home prices were high, especially for a young single woman. I eventually found a starter home right off of Colfax and Jasmine. I fixed up the house and started to move to larger fixer-uppers. That led me to a house on 23rd and Forest, and then another one on 17th Avenue Parkway in Cherry, and then finally to 6400 Montview. We've now been in our house at the Montview home since 2013. We've completed many projects in that time, including stucco repair, masonry repair, roof restoration, electrical upgrades, replacing many missing bathroom floors, renovating bathrooms and kitchens, just to name a few projects. Everything has been done in a way that we hope celebrates the home's historic character and architectural style. We want to designate our home to ensure that it is around for generations to reflect Park Hill's diverse historical architecture along Montview Boulevard. As Jennifer just spoke about, being one of the last houses along Montview Boulevard, our house stands out not only because of its prominent location on the southeast corner.
That's the time we have allocated. We appreciate your comments. Our next speaker up is Christy Miniello.
Good evening. My name is Christy Miniello, and I live in Denver. I prepared the application on behalf of Rebecca, so I'm available to answer any questions council may have.
All right, thank you, Christy. Our next speaker is Shannon Stage.
Good evening, council members. Thank you so much for having us tonight. My name is Shannon Stage, and I am the preservation coordinator at Historic Denver. We are a membership-based nonprofit that provides assistance and resources to help preserve places that matter to our community. Our address is 1420 Ogden Street, Denver, Colorado. We are thrilled to be here tonight to show our support at City Council for the Bittman-Hauer House designation at 6400 Montview. As outlined in the preamble of our city's preservation ordinance, one reason we have a designation program is to foster good urban design. And this property is being designated for its design excellence, as Jenny mentioned, and what it contributes to our shared fabric of our city, particularly due to its location at the intersection of two of our city's notable parkways, Montview Boulevard and Montview Parkway, which are both a part of the National Register and local designation Parks and Parkway system. It reflects design excellence and artistic merit through its strong and intact Spanish eclectic style, and is the only example of this style designed by J. Roger Musick, a notable Denver architect responsible for a number of high-quality buildings in Denver. This house will be the first residential structure designated on Montview, and only the fourth home in Park Hill to be designated, despite the fact that Park Hill encompasses more than 10,000 homes in total. Among these 10,000 homes, there is a great variety of architectural styles, inspiring stories, and historic themes. 6400 Montview sits within this larger context of Park Hill neighborhood history from its early development in the 19th century through the first decades of the 20th century, to the post-war boom that expanded the neighborhood to the north, to the area's role in the civil rights movement and resident and church-led efforts to fight unjust real estate practices and promote integration. I want to commend Rebecca Rogers and her family for their stewardship of their house so far and their efforts to pursue this designation with the help from Miniello Consulting who prepared the designation application. We hope Rebecca and her family's action will inspire others in the neighborhood to take similar action, as Park Hill is home to many terrific resources, but so few designations. Thank you all. Thanks so much tonight.
Thank you, Shannon. Our next speaker up is Jesse Paris.
Hello.
Go ahead, Jesse. I think you might have to unmute again.
You can promote me to speaker.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, my name is Jesse LaShawn Paris. I'm a presenter for Denver Homicide Loud, Black Stars to Move for Self-Defense, Positive Action Commitment for Social Change, as well as the Unity Party of Colorado and Mile High News. That will be the next mayor of Denver in 2023. So here we go again with another historic preservation in a historically prejudiced and racist neighborhood such as South Park Hill. So we're gonna pass this preservation because it meets all the criteria of whatever criteria is based on. It's gonna meet the criteria, so there's nothing I can tell you that's gonna change your vote on this tonight. I would just like to acknowledge the fact that the presentation didn't do this any kind of justice or injustice in regards to the fact that this is redlined, and this house is one of the main houses that was supposed to put that red line in. It was involved, included in that redlining. You mentioned it vaguely, but then it kind of, you didn't like go into detail about it. So for those that are tuning in at home, prior to 1970, Black people were not allowed to live past Colorado Boulevard. The first Black people moved to Parkville, what is now South Parkville, North Parkville, in the 1970s. So this is very recent that we were allowed to even live in this neighborhood. And campaigning in 2019, I knocked every single door in this neighborhood. And this area is still pretty much redlined. Maybe a few Black families that stay in South Parkville. Majority of the Black families live in North Parkville. And this is by design. So even 40, 50, 60 years later, we still see the effects of redlining in the 21st century. So I would be doing my people a disservice if I did not bring this up and let people know the historical significance of this. As I stated previously, nothing I'm going to say is going to change the vote on this. It's pretty much been bought and sold. So I just want to let people know redlining is still in effect in the 21st century. This neighborhood was off limits to Black people for a number of years, number of decades. And I do not feel comfortable in this neighborhood still to this day. Like I said, I knocked doors in this neighborhood during my campaign for city council at large. I did not feel welcome or at home, but you know, I'm not concerned with that. This meets the criteria, so it's going to get passed. Thank you for your time tonight. Bye.
Thank you, Jesse. Our last speaker is David Hagen.
Hi, good evening, City Council. Thanks for having me on here. I kind of want to just reiterate what Jesse had said. I'm assuming that the only Black people that entered that house prior to 1970 worked at that house to either clean or cook. And I think that should be stated, that we're well aware of the white supremacist past of that neighborhood. And since it was brought up that the home was part of integration, I think that we should also be aware that that home could house a whole lot of unhoused right now. So I don't know how many bedrooms and whatnot are in there, but I'm pretty sure half of downtown could sleep in that house. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes our speakers tonight. Questions from members of council? All right, going once, going twice. All right. The public hearing for Council Bill 20-1560 is closed. Comments by members of council. Councilman Herndon.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm very familiar with this property. I take Mountain View several times. It's a beautiful house. For those of you who have not had the opportunity to drive it, and it certainly meets the criteria. We've got a little off comment with a little bit of false information, but I'll let my colleagues, if you're interested, read the history of Parkville when it comes to integration and the work that community has done. So I just want to just briefly talk about that, since I don't want people to think everything that's said here during public comment is true. But I also want to commend Rebecca Rogers and her family. She's a tireless advocate for making things historic beyond just her household, as she was talking about in the Parkville community. So I want to thank her and her continued efforts for that. I will be supporting this, and I would ask my colleagues to do the same. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilman Herndon. And I likewise will be supporting this structure for preservation. It does meet all of the significant criteria necessary. Madam Secretary, roll call, please.
Herndon.
Aye.
Hines.
Aye.
Cashman.
Aye.
Kinich.
Aye.
Ortega.
Aye.
Sandoval.
Aye.
Sawyer.
Aye.
Torres. Aye. Black,
Aye.
Cedabaca,
Aye.
Clark,
Aye.
Flynn.
Aye.
Madam President.
Aye. Madam Secretary, please close the voting and announce the results.
13 ayes.
13 ayes. Council Bill 20-1560 has passed. There being no further business before this body, this meeting is adjourned. Enjoy your evening.
And that is what makes Jesse a marketing genius. Yes, baby. I've got to work for a little while. I'll be down now. I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you. I'll be there in a bit. I'll be as soon as I can. I love you. I love you. I love you. Oh, shoot. Did I miss it? Oh, darn. These end earlier. Most of the time, these meetings go till like midnight. Whoops. Oh, well. I guess I will go be with my kids sooner than I expected. But it was a short night. Remember, we gotta speak up, and we gotta speak out. I'm gonna copy and paste some information here from Candace Cedabaca. She has directly reached out to constituents and said, please tell me what you think about these changes, not just to the group living amendment. So let's first sign up here to demand that your council reps approve the group living amendment. Number 2, sorry. Sign up for Carrie Joy's mailing list. Demystify the technique. She breaks down all things happening at different levels of city government, and it's really amazing. And I was going to do this a long time ago, but then I saw it was happening, and I don't feel the need to replicate really good work that's already being done. And then finally, get this up. Email City Council and tell them what you think. Ask yourself these 3 questions. How would a 1 p.m. City Council meeting time impact your participation? What alternatives would you recommend? And what does modernizing the City Council meeting, what does that mean to you? Those are the 3 questions. And then after that, go here. I'm copying directly from her email to her constituents. I am not one of her constituents. I get her email, and I tell you what, my City Council rep did not tell me about any of these proposed changes to public input. See if there's anything else in the email that needs to be shared. So that's the meat and the potatoes of the week. Do not ever forget that civic duty is not voting once every 4 years. You are your brother's keeper. And even when you exercise your privilege and do nothing to engage, then you're exercising your privilege by doing nothing to engage. And I don't know about you, but there are a lot of changes that I want to see. And those changes aren't going to happen if I sit back, use my privilege, and keep my mouth shut. There's a whole lot that still doesn't work for me. And there's going to be 3 inches of snow coming tonight. It's not enough to ski on, but it's enough to die under. Please remember the unhoused. Do what you can. If you live near a safe outdoor space, they get food donated all the time. Please, if you have food to spare, take a look. Just go around your neighborhood driving and hand out food wherever you can. The safe outdoor spaces seem to be well looked after. Everybody else, not at all. And if you are concerned about the increases of unhoused in your neighborhood, email your city council member. They do have the power to stop and change this. They just have not used it yet. Either way, you have more power than you think you do. I am proud of you for showing up, and I'm going to continue to beg you to use that power however and wherever you can. You're coached, you are loved. Let's go on to the week ahead.